I now call United Nations Watch.
Mr. President, UN Watch 28 recent UPR country reviews to count how many NGO submissions were made. We found 9 NGO submissions on Turkmenistan, 12 on Romania, 23 on Germany, 32 on Russia, and the highest, 48 on Canada. And then there was Cuba. Here the number suddenly soars and multiplies to the unbelievable amount of 454. Now, one may assume that such an astonishing amount of NGO submission would provide that much more of a robust critique. Yet, in the stakeholder summary, we found that out of 105 numbered paragraphs, 72 consist of robust praise of Cuban human rights record. In fact, the summary provides no less than 93 separate statements of praise.
I have to interrupt, Madam, you, because I see point of order. Delegation of Cuba.
Thank you very much, President. It's inconceivable for this NGO to here and now try and call into question the procedures which were followed during the Cuba UPR. If I'm not mistaken, it was 6 p.m. last Friday when the UPR of Cuba was adopted. So I really don't see the need for this NGO to refer to Cuba now, when one person claiming to be a representative of this NGO took the floor when my country's report was being considered. So this is entirely not pursuant to the proceedings. All the more so when reference is being made to those NGOs which submitted written contributions in respect of our appearance before the UPR. It's not up to an NGO to question other NGOs in respect of their submissions vis-à-vis one country. So, President, could you please tell this representative that they cannot speak in respect of a country that has already undergone its UPR review, and pursuant to the regulations, could you please not allow them to take the floor again? Thank you.
Thank you. I consider that this statement made by the representative of the NGO has not much to do with item 6, and I urge speaker to focus on human rights matters under discussion. I giving back floor. I see United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. We highlight that the United States firmly believes that accredited NGOs must be permitted to speak in the Council. The member states, including the United States, may occasionally disagree with the content of NGO statements. It is essential that civil society voices be heard here in an atmosphere of open expression. Without addressing the substance of the Speaker's statements, we are of the opinion that what we have heard of the interventions so far is indeed addressed to the subject matter at hand before this Council. Thank you.
Before I give the floor to distinguished Pakistan, I would like to tell that it was my intention to give back floor to this speaker. Excellency, you have the floor, Ambassador of Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. President. President, the reason I've taken the floor is to emphasize the relevance of the rules of procedure. We strongly believe that NGOs have every right to speak and that this right should not be curtailed in any manner. At the same time, we also strongly believe that there is a code of conduct and that all of us, states, parties, as well as NGOs, need to observe the rules of procedure. The Cuban delegation has pointed out an important aspect of the breach of this rules of procedure. We do not challenge the NGO from saying what they want to say as long as it is in keeping with the rules of procedure. And as you have rightly pointed out, Mr. President, that they should stick to the matter at hand, to the agenda item at hand, and not stray into areas which are not under consideration at this time. Therefore, I request you to advise this NGO to observe your ruling, and if they do not do so, then to deny them the use of this opportunity. Thank you.
I thank you, Excellency. I see representative of Venezuela.
Thank you very much, President. I take the floor simply to support this point of order raised by the delegate of Cuba. Also, I wish to speak in support of the statement just made by the representative of Pakistan. We are not against representatives from civil society, but such participation must be pursuant to the rules governing their contributions to this Council. As you yourself have pointed out, President, in our view, what the representative from this NGO was saying was not pursuant to the discussion that we're having under Agenda Item 6. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I give the floor to the delegation of China.
Mr. President, China supports the point of order raised by Cuba. China also supports the ruling by the President. China would like to suggest that, Mr. President, that you should advise the non-governmental organizations that when they take the floor, they should abide by the rules of procedure of the Human Rights Council. Thank you, Mr. President.
I give the floor to the President of the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Mr. President. The UK supports the point of our US colleagues. While we may not necessarily agree with everything NGO says, we respect the right of NGOs, of accredited NGOs, to speak in the Council. Thank you.
I give the floor to the distinguished ambassador of Egypt.
شكرا سيدي الرئيس.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we do indeed support the need to listen to the points of view of non-governmental organizations who are accredited within this Honorable Council. However, we agree about the need for their statements and their activities within the Council, that they must be carried out in line with the rules. And some of these organizations do not do things in a way that is in line with the Council's rules. And this is why we support the statement made by the ambassador of Pakistan, which was supported by Venezuela, in light of the objections made by Cuba. We support these statements and your statement, Mr. President, and in the future we would like to have time to have a discussion about the degree of involvement of all with respect to the rules of the Council, and things should not be in a way that is not in line with these rules. Thank you.
I thank you, Excellency. I see delegation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mr. President, the delegation would like to support from the point of order made by the Cuba and also echo itself with the comments made by Venezuela, Pakistan and Egypt in this regard. Thank you.
I thank you. I am now giving the floor back to the NGO's delegate concerned and ask her to conclude her statement, bearing in mind my earlier comment.
Mr. President, while genuine critiques and suggestions for improving human rights in Cuba do appear, they were overwhelmed by the
Delegation of Cuba, please.
Thank you, President. I'm very sorry to have to interrupt the proceedings again. Not something which I think is seemly, but let me start by saying to those delegations that defended the Speaker, well, then they should also defend those non-governmental organizations that promote the rights of the Palestinian people. Because this NGO that's taking the floor at the moment before this Council, everybody knows that they defend the violations committed by the Israeli people against the Palestinians. I really have no further comment on this specific NGO. And I would ask you, President, to abide by your own ruling. Otherwise, I'm going to be forced to have to continue to raise points of order as the Speaker continues to refer to the Cuba UPR. I repeat that this NGO already took the floor when the Cuban UPR was being discussed on Friday afternoon, and it's not even 72 hours since that's elapsed. So I ask you to abide by your own decision, sir. Thank you.
I thank you. I turn again to representative of NGOs concerned, and I will repeat what I said earlier, to focus on human rights matters under discussion.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. We have concluded our statement.